Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Chase here with Aquarium Partners and Elite Aquarium Services. Today I'm going to be setting up a 6.6 gallon ELOS planted tank. As you can see in the tank, I've got the BioKit Fresh and the BacterKit Soil along with the ELOS Regenera, which is basically the mineral supplement, the mineral salts that I need to maintain a general hardness and alkalinity in the aquarium. I've got the ELOS Premium Soil called Terra. I've got the 1 millimeter and I've got the 3 millimeter granule size. I've also got some rock from Triad Reef Critters, the Dragon Rock. I also got my wood from Triad Reef Critters. I got my plants from a couple different places, including Triad Reef Critters. From Triad Reef Critters, I got the Cebulata the narrow leaf, basically the Sagittaria cebulata, and the Monte Carlo, or the Macrothenum tweedii, as I believe is how you pronounce it. Also some dwarf baby tears, the Hemianthus calatricotis. I can't remember if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but anyways, you get the point. Dwarf baby tears, some Monte Carlo, some of the Cebulata, some narrow leaf, and I also got some, which is really cool, the tiger lotus, or the Nymphia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right either. I'm always bad with the Latin names. So anyways, we're going to jump right into this, and I'm just going to start planting the tank. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask later. You'll see the link in the bottom for you to subscribe. And let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the ELOS Terra Soil. This is the 3 to 5 millimeter, I believe. And this is going to be my bottom. This is going to be my base for the aquarium. Now, I'm just going to put the majority of this in the back left corner of the system. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to build up a big, tall base in the back for what I'm going to be doing for my scape. And the next thing I'm going to add is the smaller grain. This is the 1 millimeter stuff. This is the stuff that is going to help the plants with smaller roots grab on a little bit better to the substrate. I've got my brush here. I'm just going to kind of push everything to one corner where I want it. Get it evened out as much as I can. Haven't really come up with a name for this scape yet, but I'm sure I will during the video. We'll kind of go from there. Now, I want to create a nice base, a nice heavy layer of substrate for my plants to root into. Some people might say this isn't enough, but the plants that I'm using are really small, mostly foreground. The lotus is going to have a ton of room to root back here. The Sagittaria, the Cebulata, the longleaf, the narrowleaf is going to have plenty of room back here. And we'll just go from there. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to start putting in my hardscape. You might see me add a little bit more soil later, excuse me, and that's just so I know that I have the right depth that I want. This is the Dragon Rock from Triad Reef Critters. Thanks guys, JJ, Dexter, thank you. Now you can see what I'm doing here with this rock is I'm kind of creating a barrier between the back and the foreground. I don't want the substrate to slide forward. I want it to really stay in place. I don't want it to move around too much. add a little bit more soil. Now again, what these rocks are helping do is also keeping the substrate, helping to keep the substrate from sliding down. I don't want the substrate to move around too much, because when my substrate moves around, then my plants are going to move around, or could dislodge the roots, or some things I don't want it to happen. Some things I don't want to happen. I think that's enough for the rock. So I'm going to take some wood that I got. And go ahead and just put that in there. And I'll just do one more piece. Now I did draw this up before I did the scape, but still things always change. As anyone knows that does aquascaping, things always change. And yeah, I think that looks great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of water, and we'll start putting in our plants. Patience is a virtue here. You do not want to start stirring stuff up. Hitting the hard surfaces of the rock will help you from disturbing a lot of the stuff in the substrate. Now the really cool thing about the substrate is it's 100% natural, and I'll go over it a little bit here at the end of the video, or I might just completely do a mute on the video and we'll talk about the video while I'm building it. Now out of camera view, I have a pan with a nice big white piece of wax paper sitting in the pan, where I can pull my plants out and I can separate them, and I can pick and choose the plants that I want and where I want to place them. It makes it a little bit easier for me to have everything set up in advance, so I don't have to jump back and forth between choosing a plant and breaking up a plant or anything like that. And again, I'm doing this really quick because I want to show you how simple a planted aquarium can be. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to bring out is the Monte Carlo. This is a really cool plant, one that we use in the foreground. It's going to go in between my rocks here. It's going to make the basically a carpet layer that you're going to have going around the substrate, going around the rocks. Nice little surface, little carpeted area. And then, whoop, again, this is why we do this first. So I got my tongs, tweezers, and I'm just going to break apart some of the plant. It is rooted, so we are going to need to get it down into the substrate. Now you see I'm putting it pretty far down in the substrate. It's okay. The plant will grow out of the substrate. And what we'll do later on is come back through with a net and get any of the floaters, free floating stuff out of the top, off the top of the aquarium. Try to get these up in between the rocks here. Now, a finer substrate could have made this a little easier, but it's not a necessity. It's not something that you have to have. You do not have to have a super fine substrate with the carpeting plants, and I'll show you why here in a little while. Because what's going to happen is these roots are going to attach themselves to the substrate. Now you might bury a few leaves, and that's fine. It's okay to let that happen. I will say that I had this out of the aquarium, or out of the store for quite a while, so it's been almost 3 days, and it is not looking as healthy as it should, and that is my fault. I got behind on my video, and I'm just gonna stick these back here in the background behind my trees. And now we'll do some of the tiger lotus. The tiger lotus does have some long roots on it. I'm just gonna break off about an inch or so. I did lose the bulbs on these. Again, that was my fault, but it should be okay. We're gonna put these right in front of the trees. Keeping it to one side because I want them to come out this way from behind that rock. And now all I'm going to do is fill it up. And you are probably going to see some come up out of the substrate. But again, this is why it's very important to take your time and fill it up slowly, not to disturb the substrate. And we can fast forward from here. Now later on, what I might do is take some Anubias, some of the mini Anubias, or some dwarf Anubias, and I might strap it to the leaves, or to the branches on the trees. And what that does is, since Anubias is a semi-aquatic, it doesn't have to stay completely submerged in the water. We'll have a nice little tree coming up out of the top of the tank, which is really neat. Now, one of the most beautiful things about a tank this size is it's so easy to maintain and do a water change. Like, literally all I have to do is pull out about 1.5 gallons every week, do a 30% water change, or whatever that equates to, and it's simple enough. The filter that I'm going to be using for it is a little Marineland canister filter, just for flow and some mechanical filtration. I don't like using carbon in planted aquariums because it absorbs a lot of the micro and macronutrients that's needed for the plants. This will be housing some shrimpies. I'm not sure which ones yet, but for now I'm just setting it up and getting it up and running. The Bacter Kit soil, really cool. So I just take this off, and this is the Bacter soil and the Nutrisoil. The Bacter soil is basically a whole bunch of living bacteria aimed to colonize the soil for new aquariums. The Nutrisoil is the nutrients needed for proper bacteria development. Really simple. I only need 1 vial of each for this aquarium. don't need more than that, but the really cool thing about this stuff is you can put as much as you want to in there and you're not going to overdose. The only thing you're going to be doing is wasting your money. This is the Prodibio Nutri-Soil and the Prodibio Bacter Soil. And cool thing about this stuff is the shelf life. Very long shelf life. I think it's like 2 years. I know it looks like, oh, I got to break a piece of glass, but I'm going to just do it with my finger. It's very hard, or very easy to do. Bam. Very simple. And I'm going to hold the rest up above the tank, tip it, see how it doesn't come out, and pop the top. And there you go, empty. And just to show you, I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do the Bacter Soil again. I'm going to break the top. There is a little plastic thing in here that they give you to break it, and I'll show you. It's really simple. Just take that, slip it on the tip, and break. That's it. Now for future nutrient supplementation, I'm going to be using the ELOS Advanced Formula for planted aquariums. Like I said earlier, this substrate absorbs a lot of the salts needed to maintain general hardness or alkalinity. They are different, yes, I know. To maintain the general hardness and alkalinity in the system, the substrate is going to absorb it. So I can use well water, which I am using, and I could have a general hardness of 11, and it's going to take it down to 2. So I need to make sure that I keep my water as close to where I want it as possible. And with this stuff, it's very simple. The dosing regimen is on the back. One pump is, I believe it's still 10 gallons. I haven't really looked at it yet, but I believe it is one pump for every 10 gallons. One pump being literally, so I just pop this and that's it. That's all I need to do. Really simple. ELOS does have all the stuff you need for aquariums, including iron. Now, their iron is a little bit different from other irons, and I won't go into details, but when you have certain iron elements, or when you have chelated and non-chelated iron, LEDs can mess up the way that it works, the way that it's utilized by the plants. LEDs will, for lack of better terminology, burn up the iron needed for the plants to thrive. So ELOS has taken this iron supplement and made sure that it can be used with LEDs. Kind of cool. Check it out. Google it. Pretty cool stuff. And we're going to let this clear up. That's pretty much it. I'm going to come through with a net, get some of this get some of this off the top. These little free floaters and things that are popping up. Now, you will get stuff that comes up out of the soil. I know it's aggravating. I really, really do. Just take your time when you're planting. Take your time when you're getting it submerged in the substrate. Make sure that the roots are very well below the substrate line, the surface of the substrate, and you shouldn't have too much of a problem. But other than that, there we have it.